Hello everybody, my name's Ian Ellis. I'm just here to show you the colour mixing of Monet's painting, the Reader, painted in 1872. Just a couple of years after the painting I just did with the woman on the beach, two women on the beach with the umbrellas. And it's the same with the same palette. These colours, you can see this is the painting. There's quite a lot of very subtle colours here. I think the red ochre and yellow ochre, I think, has been used with this. Later on, which will be the next video, I've been looking at how he stops using these two. But I'm just going to do a bit of mixing for you. We're going to look at the green first. I'm going to look for the green, get the green on, and just try and get it as close, as quick as I can, actually, as close to this. But it's more like just see how the colours work together. Remember, two colour mixing is the thing Monet is really good at. So I'm trying to get the pairs. The reason why I stick with two colour mixing is because you get loves of colour shifts between the two, and we'll see that when we paint the dress. But anyway, I'm just going to get on with the mixing the green. The green itself, if you look at the green, the palette is the same palette as the last palette. We've got the yellow ochre, cadmium yellow, red ochre, cadmium orange, vermilion, alizarin crimson, cobalt violet, ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, emerald green, viridian green, or whichever way you want to put them. I put them viridian green. They're very close to each other, these two, in hue. Just going for the green, because it's a quite strong green, perhaps using the viridian green with an ochre, maybe, so I'll try and get that with that. It's quite a dark green, so I assume he's using the viridian green. And you get this kind of chrome green, it's a lovely green there. Just looking a bit too bright, so adding more of the viridian green in there. That looks pretty good. Again, organising the palette before I start the painting. A lot of experienced painters, what they do, you know, I see beginners one colour at a time. But you need to see the contrast, especially you get your palette organised, and you can then once you've got the palettes organised, you can then decide on just a bit of this, bit of that, might help and change the colours. Nice about this is that there is a movement going down towards these colours that look a bit more greenish, a bit more darker, so I can get these colours a bit darker than this, not much in it, between the two, and you can see there's a nice shift going on between these ochre. I don't see too many of these colours in there though, but I think it's staying with a kind of darker green down towards the ochre, making a nice strong colour there. Going up towards the green again, just a little bit more green with it, giving me the darker colour. These colours down the bottom, you've got these kind of yellows. I mean, I could go for the cadmium yellow and cobalt blue. Again, I've not seen the actual colours provided by restorers. I'm not seeing that, so I couldn't find anything. So what I'm doing, I'm just following the patterns of mixing the ones I have seen. Getting some nice colours down here, maybe a bit strong. Bring a bit more blue in that. Just through in there, that's fine. And there's this lovely colour at the back, this kind of faded green. I'm gonna go for the cobalt blue and yellow, and same combination, cadmium yellow, cobalt blue. And see what I get, how close I get to that colour at the back. It's quite dull colour, but it's very light, so that's quite nice. So kind of put more white with it, and moving it. I can just see it moves over towards a yellow, so I'm just getting that in there now. It's kind of movement between the two. So the kind of light comes down and hits something and blasts out the colour. White tends to do this, and it's quite interesting. You've got this idea of light catching her top there. That kind of redness you've got there. It's a light bounce hitting the side of something. And then you've got light coming through the trees, just making these really strong colours. Almost white because it's so bright, hitting the dress, coming through the leaves and that. Amazing colours. Shame people don't wear clothes like this anymore. They're great to paint. But I suppose today you'd have someone sat there with jeans, you know. But anyway, looking at the dress, let's go for that. There's kind of really strike, kind of powerful colour there, and there's a nice movement. If you look at the colour, the clue to mixing is when you see the colour shift. So it looks like a bit purplish and a bit greenish. So I'm going to go for the colours here. If it's kind of like blue colours, I'm mixing my blue colours. Either side of the blues, I've got the viridian green and I've got the cobalt violet. So I'm going to mix my blues that way. Which is the next video. I'm going to be focusing on, the next video I do is going to be focusing on mixing blues. So let's just go for that. I'm going for the viridian green. So the viridian green and the violets. Have a look. So tiny bits of violet. And then we're going to need quite a lot of white, just so you can see it goes very dark. Let's see what colour we got when we put a lot of white with it. And again, a kind of green, blue there. Just a little bit. A bit more green with it. Just gone a bit too far. More white. That kills the colour than the painting. Just looks a little bit too bright to me. I mean, just I can't believe how intense that is. That colour, how dull that colour is. It looks. This is quite intense. So I could go a little bit further away. Perhaps use emerald green, might be a little bit more yellow in it with the violet, so let's have a look at that. That might be a little bit further away, so it doesn't look quite so more white in it. And get more of the green in there. Now looking a bit more like it, more white. You see what I'm doing there? Just gone slightly further away. It's just giving me that colour. It's just nice little bits of green in there. So it's lovely. Just grade slightly. Just bring it back towards the. It's a bit too green, so just bring it a little bit more. That's almost there, yeah, just slightly more, gone a bit too far away. But I'm getting all the other colours in there. See these kind of bits of violet going over towards slightly more of a blue. So I put more violet in these colours. That will make that look more green. So more white. And I'm getting these lovely kind of almost like ultramarine blues I'm mixing there. They're lovely. Getting them in there. And getting that shift in the colour. I've got a few pinks down there going a bit more violet. Those can be used on the dress. It's hard to tell actually until you get the colours next to each other how they're going to work. You know, I'm looking at these colours separately. I put these on, they might not be right. This is why it's so difficult to copy a painting. When you're doing the painting, you haven't got that problem because you're setting off, you're trying to get colours to work. And you'll put a strong colour down your light. Well, I'm looking at is when we're copying something in nature, we're looking at the brightness of the colours caused by the rest of the colours next to them. So I'm mixing these colours on this light ground, and I've just got to bear in mind I need to alter these. And quite often you do. You mix your colours, you put them on, then you slightly alter. But I'm just trying to get enough mix so I can actually see the contrast in the painting. And then I've seen my palette, and I'll be able to adjust accordingly as they're going on. Now. These colours at the back, and I've got these kind of browns, kind of ochres going across there. So I'm going to go for, to get those kind of green ochres, I'm going to go for maybe ultramarine blue or cobalt blue with the ochre. You get these kind of green ochres. Just pass over the yellow, because it's not quite so, brownish, because it's more green. And I'm looking at these colours, that looks pretty good. within that. And then move back over towards the yellow ochre. It's just a kind of movement between the ochre and the blue. You're getting these slightly stronger ochres up there, and then going towards the blue, getting more greenish as they move away from the... So we're getting quite a lot of colours. I'm mixing that shift in there. Some of these browns over the top there, I mean, I see the browns in the face and the face. I think that starts getting into kind of like a complementary colour. So you might find an orange with ultramarine blue or cobalt blue will give me the subtle browns. And more white with that as well. So you're getting these colours within the face using complementaries, and you can grow them a little bit more. You can grey them a little bit more, where you get these lighter colours again, a bit more white. And some of these colours I think are in the hands there. It's lovely bit of colour with the hands, just slightly. Some grey colours in there. And then similar colours around the back, maybe perhaps could get these kind of colours if you got the red and you moved over with the green. You get these kind of this, but I'm going to use the red ochre. Just move this painting over to this side now, give myself a bit more space. I'm looking for the browns at the back of the painting. I could go with the green, slight green coming into this, just shift it. Might be a bit complementary, might go a bit too grey, but we'll just have a look. Because it's quite a red, that brown. I'll go with the orange, might be better. Just done a bit too red, so if we go for the cadmium orange, bit of the green, that's better. I think I might get those browns at the back there, that's more like it. A bit more white with them, and you're getting these colours just slightly more green with them, just to and then moving back over towards the brown, so you get a nice movement between the two. Sorry, not what one. Got the orange there, slightly more orange. Bit more green. Okay, and then yeah, I think I'm ready to get going. I mean, just want a couple of really grey colours here. They're quite complex. Again, red ochre with the green might give you the comments, or that I could use the let's try viridian green with the red ochre, complementary colours. It's like putting the cadmium red, really. I'm using the red ochre more than the cadmium red, but and I'm trying to get a nice dark grey green. So if I put my white with that, see what I've got. So the other side of a dress is darker. You get these dark grey greens in there. Back towards the green a bit more. That looks pretty good. And more white. Still looks a little bit blue, more blue than that, so that's gone a bit too green. I'm just assuming it's some of these colours down here still look a bit too green. So what I'm going to do, and try a different combination. If I go for the red and the viridian green. Or the red and the cerulean blue might do it, give me a bit more of a grey colour. So if I go for the the cobalt blue, slightly bit of the ochre, might give me more of a grey blue colour. Then adding the white with that, see what I've got. Some of those colours are quite close to those. If I just a bit more white with it, bit more blue. Just move them over. Use the cobalt blue. I've got some kind of like purple colours in there just around here. They're there, but I think there's some other colours going over towards the grey green there. Just finding my... I'll try what I'm going to do now is just go for the complementary red. I can go for this. I'll use the alizarin crimson, just because I think it's just a bit more green. Some of these colours are good. You get a few purples in there, purple greys, but I think they're a bit more green. So I'm using alizarin crimson on the green. It's giving me a nice black there. And then I'm going to put some white paint with that. Difficult to see greys, get a colour, identify them. And it's not quite straightforward. It's not using the same colours. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah. Now these colours, these greys, mixed with those greys, are quite interesting. We've got a nice mix between the two, so it's getting more colourful greys in the same painting. But what I can imagine he might have done is just use a little bit more of the red, so it looks more purple. So you've got the grey and the alizarin crimson together. And I'm going over towards too much red. Get more viridian green in there, but only slight. So it just leaves it slightly towards more of a red grey. So if I again bring the white back in. And so I've got this kind of, that's perhaps what I'm seeing there. That's what I'm seeing. Yeah, it's more like it. Yeah, it's just using the two same colours, I think. They've got the viridian green. It took me a bit to get it, but I was getting close, I thought, with that, but that was too brown now. So you've got the kind of purple, which is a kind of grey version of the alizarin crimson, and the grey version of the green together in the same painting, which makes sense. It's quite a colourful combination, just using pairs of colour again, and you get in a nice couple of greys there. Anyway, I'll start putting some colours on now, everyone. Right, I'll just put a bit of green in there, just how the greens look. Might be, I've just got a funny feeling it might be a bit too strong, really, when I put them down there. Put more ochre in there with the colours. That's better when I put more ochre in there. Using the ochre in. Looks a little bit too, at the moment it looks a little bit too bright, but let's just have a look, see when we put the dress on. You're better off getting too bright than too dark. But we won't really, it's like I said, it's hard to tell until you start putting the colours on which colours are going to work. I've got a quite big brush here. I'm going to go for the light of the dress. But there's more white with that. Keep it nice and... See, that make the green appear darker. This is the thing, so it's hard. That's why it's hard to do a lot of copies sometimes. And when a painter's got a bit more pink coming into that, I put some light pinks in there with them as it drops it. Try and keep my brushes clean. But you see how that's, and it looks darker. I mean, I'm just going to look at the other colour at the back there, the little bit of light coming through the trees, and it just will appear. Make this again, make it appear darker. More in pasto there. You can see it's putting the paint down really quite thick, and I'm putting down the paint quite thick. Maybe use a knife on that painting, but going back to the, oops, to the dress, again, more white. Really some beautiful light colours there, but they're not tints. I don't think they are anyway, but getting bits more blue appearing around here. Get a bit more blue-green. Just a little bit of the emerald green in there. Going up. And more white. And get back to the purples again, some more purple greys in there within the dress. And more white again. I'm going towards more of a pink. The pink there with the greens, beautiful mixing, kind of optical mixing as well going on a bit here. And then I've got the darker greys. Again, clean brush. The greys dropping in, starting to a bit more green maybe. More white. Now, just start bringing some darker colours against the face and against the ochres coming into there, mixed with the ochre. I could perhaps go for ochre with ultramarine, but get some darker colours in there if I need to. And then some more brown colours. So kind of looks a little bit thin, the paint there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just rub this colour in with a rag just to get these colours that are there. So that colour underneath comes through and gives me the colour I want there within that. Same thing with the hands, I think, really. We'll miss the hand just coming down. I can do the same thing, bring in the little bit of colour with the hands. She's using a clean brush, really. And then just taking paint off with a dry brush to get the right colour. So it's very, very light, much lighter. I'm going to use a bit of tissue just to pull that bit of colour away. Now, it's a bit light coming around here, some darker greens around the back, which I've not got the dark greens yet. The dark greens I can use maybe the orange and green. If you use a bit of the orange and the green with the green, you get some really nice dark colours, which I think are really broken up around the back here. More orange needed. And you get these darker colours coming up against the dress there. That gives you the contrast, helps give it the contrast. Also, there are some darker browns around the side of the, bring these greys out a bit more within the paint colour in there. And at the other side as well, it looks, goes very black in there. But just moving this colour, again, I can just rub the colours in. That's quite interesting for bringing out the colours. The browns themselves being, and then we're going for the green again, a bit more of the green on the orange to get the ochres, the darker greens I've got in there, going around the back there, and some of these colours again broken in And these lovely darker greens running through the back, on the back of the painting. Now they look too. I could go for the viridian green, more viridian green with that, but I think it might need to get go for much darker colour. That's looking more yellow, I think, over there. So what I'm going to do, if I go for this green and the orange, I can bring in the green and orange. So I've got the emerald green and the orange there, bringing my, the emerald green's dominating the orange, and I'm trying to get that darker green at the back there. It's going towards more like a yellow green. That's lovely. That's more like it, and I'm just gonna bring that colour in. I can take this paint away. Lovely combination that, when you get the colour, the cadmium orange, when it works with the greens, you get some really gentle greens there. And these are just a little bit too strong at the back. They start dying, and the quality of the colour. I'll bring some of this green in to the foreground as well. So I've got these greens at the back, making this a little bit darker. Bits of specks of colour as well around there. And these greens I got before, these stronger greens with the brown and the orange coming down around these colours in the foreground here. It meets up to these greens over there, and it moves over. A little bit more of ochre in that, just bits of ochre just coming in just around here. And bring in the bright colours. Use a small brush. Bits of light catching. Some white in there as well, some bits of white appearing in there with it. Just shouldn't be really blending, but speeding up the process. I've got bits of grey-green in there as well. I'll get back to my brush for the grey-green. Bit more viridian. And then there's a really lovely kind of purple pinky colour in there. I'm going to go for the more of these two, going towards a violet to get that. So I'll bring in the green with the violet and lots of white. More white. Bit more green within that colour. I'm trying to get this colour just here. That's it. Just bring that in. Bit more green with it. It's a kind of non-colour between the It's kind of like a grey, violet. Lovely colour that. It's just coming in. Just catching the sleeve here as well. And then I've also got this really quite complex colour, this warm red that's in there. And just trying to get that with the cadmium red. But the cadmium red looks a bit, it looks a bit colourful, this. So I assume there might be kind of complementary colours. But we've got this brown, which is close to it. If you put brown with white, I think you get close to it. But then I can actually go towards the violet with it, really. So I've got this really lovely colour to get now. That's one of the most difficult colours to get, I think. And this is just where you get the red ochre and you get the violet. And the violet was shifted over towards a red, because those colours in between those two. And I'm going to put quite a lot of white with that, just to see what we get. Now, more white. Almost there, just a bit more of the brown. And put more white with it. And you get the brown, and it's hovering between. The kind of colour I would say was kind of warm red, and what you're getting is a lovely alizarin crimson, but it's a grey version of it, a tone of it, and it's lovely. That's it. I'm really pleased with that colour. It's kind of moving in. It's a lovely colour, just to set everything off, all the greens and reds and things off the painting. So I'm just going to bring that in. Just a little bit more pink with it. Around the head as well, and a bit at the top. The brown at the side of her face as well. I can bring in the colour, just a slight colour at the side of her face. Being very clumsy there. Side of her nose is a bit, and the grey inside her hat. Then back to the greens we had before. More white with it. Just a little bit more colour on there, bringing it across. There's a bit more light down the side of her head there, and there's a really dark colour. I'm going to go for the brown and the green to get that darker colour there. Actually, go for the blue, ultramarine blue and the red ochre to get that really dark colour. I can see at the side of her head there. That's it. And these darker colours I can use to just pick out the darker browns, little bits of light for the eyes, just tiny bits, tiny bits of colour, just a tiny bit of colour there. And I'm messing up. It's too delicate, really. I need a bigger painting to do this, so I'm trying to get as best as I can with it. Just take off that. And I've got a tiny bit of red for her lips. Again, I'll use a bit of this red ochre for that. And I've got a darker colour just inside her, against her hat. Brings her face out. And the dark ochre around the side of her face, bringing her fur out. just a few drawn lines in as well, some slightly darker tones. Separating the hand is something. She's reading a book there, that's the book. And I can actually just pick out a few of the finger lines in there. And a few of the lines in, just picking out. And the side of her face just goes up a little bit more, get more 3D in there, and the background breaks in to area here, makes it a bit darker. Anyway, I think I've got enough there. I mean, just bits of white specks actually on the dress, clean white, just to finish off. So take enough time, I think, but I've got an idea. I think we've got an idea of. I think if you want to really spend a bit of time and do this, it's really. And this is not how he'd put his painting. I'm sure he's using his fingers, but I'm just using that to get the idea very quickly, get the light catching the side of her dress. Anyway, everybody, that was a tough one, the very toughest one I've had to do actually. I mean, but I'm pleased with it. I mean, it's got a bit of energy about it because I'm rushing it. But remember, these are little colour studies, and the aim is to try and do as close as I can to Monet. But I do like these little paintings though. When you rush them, you can't copy. So it's quite fun just to see what you get when you do these small ones, and because you can't possibly get the detail. It's difficult when you're doing a small painting, obviously, to get it exactly as that. It's obviously small, but what's lovely, because you're using a big brush and you haven't got the tools, especially something John Singer Sargent said about painting, use a big brush if you can, but I think it's quite interesting when you can't do it and you have to get around it. You're actually being creative by how do you get the face? If you can't put all the detail in, how do you do it with a big brush? How do you get around it? And that's actually being creative, and you end up with a painting which looks looser. Not necessarily better, but different. But that's I really love doing these little colour studies for my own work as well. I mean, I enjoy doing the studies for them, and some of them it can be used for the final painting. It's really, at the end of the day, it's all about taste, isn't it? What kind of paintings do you like? And do you like something looser or whatever? But when you're doing a small one, it's part of the fun of their painting. Perhaps the green's a little bit, perhaps we should use a bit more of that green around here, but I like the green, it's bringing out the colours there. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, everybody. The next one I'm going to be focusing on how on what I did was mix blues with different colours, different combinations of colours. So the next video is going to be how can you mix blue, which is quite a difficult one, and I'll be looking at that, all the different ways of mixing blue. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you again. Bye.